This is the brand new Fujifilm X-T50. Now this is the long-awaited replacement of the Fujifilm X-T30 version 2, very popular camera. Now when we look at the X-T50, it has very similar features to the bigger brother, the X-T5. So checking out the sensor, this is a 40 megapixel sensor that's backside illuminated. It is also powered by the X processor 5, and we will need all that extra processing power for all that megapixel information that's being processed. In terms of autofocus with the X-T50, you have similar features to the X-T5, featuring all the algorithms, tracking humans and their faces and animals and many variety of vehicles as well. Now with the X processor 5, you will need all that extra speed in terms of capturing 40 megapixel at high frame rate. Now this camera can shoot in a cropped mode at 20 frames per second when using the electronic shutter. When we switch over to mechanical shutter, however, it goes down to 8. Now with this 40 megapixel sensor, the video capabilities is quite a big one. You can record 6.2K at 30 frames per second. You can do 4K at 60 frames per second. Drop that down even more. You can do full HD at 240 frames per second and also 120 frames per second. Now this is capable of doing a robust codec of H.265, doing 422 10-bit. And in terms of your log codec, similar to the X-T5, you have F-Log1 and also F-Log2, giving you amazing editing capabilities and very good dynamic range. Now, one thing that makes Fujifilm stand out from the crowd is their bodies. Everybody likes a Fujifilm sort of classic design, and they haven't gone away from anything from this versus the X-T30. It still has all your sort of metal tactile dials. It has 2 function controls in the back and the front. You have a pop-up flash, which is really great to give you that sort of harsh direct light. You have your USB-C port, you have a micro HDMI port, you've got your mic/remote port, you have 1 SD card slot, and you also have the classic small W126 Fujifilm battery. Overall, super compact but still powerful. Now this body is a combination of metal and plastic, and just a side note, it is not weather sealed. Now, in addition to the brand new Fujifilm X-T50, they also just released with this camera, and apparently it will be bundled with this camera, a brand new kit lens. This is the 16-50 f2.8 to f4.8. Now, what makes this lens quite unique, it's a little bit lighter than the traditional 18-55. It is weather sealed and it does have the linear motor in. However, just a little side note, they did remove the stabilizer to make it this light. So this will be a great little kit option bundled with the X-T50, perfect for a starting photographer or a travel photographer, I would say. Okay, so overall, when we look at the X-T50, it is quite a little powerful beast in here. Basically, sort of like a mini X-T5. This 40 megapixel sensor is undeniably incredible when it comes to sharpness and detail pickup. I was shooting with it at a boxing event, sort of extreme low light conditions, and I was getting very good sharp results, allowing me to crop in quite a lot from sort of shooting out of the crowd, and I could get in a lot tighter to the boxers. Now, something to note, with 40 megapixel on a crop sensor camera, unfortunately, there is a little bit of a sacrifice. Your low light capabilities are not going to be amazing. And this is kind of the next point that I want to talk about. Now, even though I said the low light of this camera is not going to be the best in the field, I feel like that sort of noise that you see in the image is actually going to add a lot to that sort of film sort of style look that a lot of people love with Fuji, especially when you play around with the cool film simulations on this body. It's going to add that sort of texture to the image that we all like from film cameras or shooting with 35mm film. And that brings me to the next point, is this brand new dial here on the left that I was talking about on the body. At first glance, I was kind of a bit weird about it because I'm so used to going into the menu and bringing up the drop down for film simulations and kind of selecting it. But as I started using the camera more and more, I actually realized it's really handy to have it here as a dedicated dial, because it makes it super fast when adjusting. And it also doesn't block out the screen completely. So it gives you a very clear indication of what the image would look like when you are playing around with the film simulation. As video is more demanding for creatives, especially for the social content creators out there, the X-T50 offers a very powerful video output. And overall, we were super happy with the video performance out of this camera. Variety of different compression modes, variety of different color profiles. You can kind of also mix it in with your film simulations. And crazy good frame rate, especially when you start dropping the quality of the camera a little bit. One thing I will note with this camera is that the autofocus in video is not the best in the industry. I had to play with the tracking a little bit and sort of push it up to the faster side of things. But overall, very capable video out of this camera, very clean. Now, an interesting new feature that Fujifilm has added in the X-T50 is the capability of recording direct via the USB-C port to an SSD. Now, in my opinion, all camera manufacturers should standardize this, as memory cards are becoming very expensive to get, and also the reliability of SD cards are kind of wonky. They can break or corrupt very easily. Now, shooting to an SSD is great. You can either get a phone clamp and mount it on top of the camera, maybe get yourself a cage and mount it to the cage. This is great for guys doing long format recording, like a podcast, for example, or people that just want to save and just record straight to an SSD. Your transfer of data is going to be much faster. So this is a very, very, very cool feature that Fuji has added, the capability of recording direct to an SSD. Just a side note, we couldn't test that feature. Unfortunately, we got that information just now this morning actually. We also couldn't find the option in the menu for some reason. It might be that this is a pre-production model and it's maybe not added in yet, but it's something we definitely want to check out in the future, and yeah, a really cool feature. So it's finally great to see Fujifilm update the X-T30 range, as it was due for an upgrade. And seeing all the amazing features they've packed in this little body makes this camera super powerful for even someone starting out or a professional that wants a compact travel solution camera that still gives a very good image quality. Now, looking at the X-T50, we're not 100% sure what the price is, and I think that's going to be very key for this camera, as it is basically a mini X-T5. It cannot be too expensive or too close to the X-T5's price, but it also cannot be too low, as people might consider rather getting the X-T50 over the X-T5. Of course, the X-T5 still has a couple of extra professional features that's not seen in the 50, but nevertheless, this still makes the X-T50 a very good, viable, travel, lightweight camera that's still super powerful.